Hey there, AfterBuzzers. You're watching the AfterBuzz TV After Show for Vinyl, Season 1, Episode 10, Alibi, also known as the finale. Join us this afternoon as we break down the episode and share our thoughts and predictions. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Awesome. Bringing us in with a little nasty bits. Ooh, shredding.
This
I love
song
it.
was great.
It was real good.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on the episode, but I loved this performance, and it was such a strong way to kind of finish at least for this season, our experience with the Nasty Bits.
I thought it was great. So obviously we are super excited to talk about the Season 1 finale with you guys right now. I'm Lauren Salaun. You can find me everywhere online at Lauren Salaun. I'm joined by my awesome panel of dudes over here.
I am Steve Kaufmann. You can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That is Kaufmann. So excited to talk about all this.
And I am Jeff Graham. You guys can find me on Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham, and then Instagram at Jeffrey Crane Graham.
Always with the grams.
Yes.
We love it. And guys, be sure that you're subscribed to us on YouTube, youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV. You can also catch all of our weekly after shows, including this one and all the others that we do and everyone else does, on iTunes and SoundCloud as well. Alrighty, so Season 1 finale, wrapped it up. Let's sum up our feelings about the finale. What'd you guys think?
It made everything real clean. Mm-hmm. Like, it just tied everything up nice and neat, but left enough for us to keep moving forward, like in typical Terence Winter fashion, like in typical HBO drama fashion, where it's just like, okay, well, that's tied together. We're gonna move forward now. Yeah, there's still plenty on the table.
Right.
Things I loved, as always, I love when this show focuses on the music. Really excited about the kind of Yankovic, Finestra division that was introduced. I think that is really interesting fodder for season 2. In general, I'd say my least favorite running thread throughout the season was the mob stuff, which is interesting because that's kind of what Terence Winter and Martin Scorsese are known for. But I think in retrospect, especially after this episode, and you called this early on, it kind of felt like a way to engineer drama and tension that didn't necessarily satisfy my narrative excitement.
Well, and also, and I think we may have said this about the pilot, that the show scene, like the pilot and then the show early on, felt more about Richie Finestra and like this broken, troubled man, and less about the music that's fueling him.
Right.
That, like, we're finally, I guess, laying groundwork where he can deal with that. Like, that it's, I don't know, it's straight that, like, part of me is interested to see what the show would look like if he wasn't this fractured man because he witnessed a murder and was a part of a murder and got involved in mob ties and this and that. Like, if he was just this impassioned dude, that, like, this newly impassioned record man. But I guess, I don't know. I enjoyed the show as it stood.
Yeah, me too.
But I have been having that feeling where I was like, this, and although I've also known that the Buck Rogers has always kind of been MacGuffin. That it's a means to get him so conflicted, and I enjoyed him this conflicted. But for a show that's about music, I was like, wow, we got a lot of just dudes seeing people and doing drugs. And
I agree with a lot of that. I felt like I was happy with the finale. I thought we were going to get a lot more craziness, for sure. I mean, we definitely had some crazy moments. I thought it was going to be like off the wall nutso. And
yeah, it was kind of a conventional episode at the end of the day, which is interesting.
And it definitely sets us up. You know, it's the kind of episode that you write very well knowing you have a secured second season coming up. You know, it wasn't like, I don't feel like we were left with any real big cliffhangers per se. I mean, there are definitely unresolved questions, and a lot of things got resolved as well. But I felt like there could have been a little more punch to it.
We weren't, it wasn't like
punch.
A jaw-dropping final twist, but it did leave some interesting seeds planted for another season.
Yes,
so.
Definitely. So let's kind of dive in here. So it opens with Richie meeting with the FBI agents, pretty much, and that didn't really give us a whole lot, that initial meeting. I mean, it just kind of makes us a little nervous for Richie because he's like, oh, well, Galasso's killed for a lot less than what's going on here. And obviously they've still got the bug going on. Richie is, cooperating with them. And later when they have the meeting, You know, Golasso talks about his, like, you know, chop shop and, like, dump yard, pretty much, where bodies are. This is with the whole Zach thing. And so they've got that little nugget on him there, but we still didn't see anything really come out of that. You know, nothing.
Although I think that meeting and then the following meeting, it looks like his handler is kind of like a star effer guy, like a starstruck guy of like, so like just groupies.
Yeah, right.
You just like, it looks like Richie's in a good place with this guy, and it looks like the chop shop was enough to keep them at bay for a pretty long time. That we're talking about how we don't want the mob stuff, but season 2 is gonna have to have mob stuff,
right?
Because he's still in business with Golasso,
right?
And he's still gonna have to talk to Golasso and find out stuff.
But the good thing is, hopefully the mob stuff will tie to music.
Yeah.
And that's what I think part of my problem was with this whole narrative was granted, Buck Rogers was a radio DJ, but like it didn't feel like it was directly tied to the stakes of maybe like payola or like licensing or like the actual label. So I think if we have that high stakes murder element, but it's like really directly tied into the stakes and the actual like underpinnings of American Century, I'll be way more into it, I think.
It's also worth noting that I believe the actor who plays Mari Gold has like fairly top billing on this show, but like is hardly used. That I feel like that's what we're moving towards with season 2. That Mari Gold is going to try to do a bunch of mob stuff to promote everything, whereas everybody else is going to try to play it straight, and then that'll get us to the music,
right?
And I'm okay with that.
Well, and the other thing I liked, at least when this show was handling the mob stuff, it did it in a way that kind of felt fresh.
Yes.
Because, like, it was funny to see, like, Yankovic, for example, try to deal with. It sort of felt like a little bit of fish out of water because that can feel so tired, the kind of New York gangstery.
Yeah.
But throwing these record execs into that situation did sometimes play for laughs, which I thought was smart from a writing perspective. And yeah,
they were well-written mob guys too.
Right.
Which
Definitely.
is always nice.
And I mean, the whole time they're trying to kind of interject themselves into the music situation. So for that, I was very, very pleased when Corso got his. You know, one less guy who knows pretty much nothing about music to out of the picture.
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about that situation and kind of leading up to that. So when Zach obviously there's been tension with Richie the entire time. You know, it's been building and then come to a head a few times, but then new drama happens. So we keep having these kind of headbutting moments between these two guys, and so he goes to basically like tattle on him to Golasso, which is so ridiculous. First of all, I mean,
it's ridiculously not street smart.
No,
like it's incredibly like I'm gonna come to you as a businessman, and it's
naive.
Like, he's not. That's not the kind of business he does. No. And he made it very clear throughout the entire episode that it's like, I do not care.
Yeah, I don't care what you guys are doing on that front. Don't mess up my situation, and you know.
I think Richie's quote was, "Are you from Des Moines or from you?"
Yeah, you're from Queens, right?
Yeah.
You're not Des Moines. You should know how to do this.
Have you
sort
ever
of thing.
dealt with a loan shark? Like they don't give you money because they think you're good. You're a financially solvent business. That's a bank.
Yeah.
They give you money because they know, come hell or high water, you're good for that money to them.
Exactly. So, I mean, that you knew wasn't going in a good place. And honestly, when Zach was in the elevator with that guy with the dog poop on his shoe, I thought that you know something is going to happen, like something stressful. And I was so stressed, and I was watching it and saying, no. I thought that guy was like a hitman, like that he was going to take Zach out in the elevator or something. Like, I was so nervous. And then they shut the blinds when he goes into Richie's office. I'm like, they're going to kill Zach. No, what's happening? I was really, did you guys,
I felt that.
Were you nervous?
I was nervous for Zach at the initial meeting. Like the initial, he met with Golasso and talked to him about it, and like pretty much was completely out of line in a way that Golasso would not have respected. That I was expecting. Part of me, I was expecting the unexpected, which is what I try to do at shows like this, where I was like, he's just gonna kill him in the room right now.
Yeah.
So that once he left the room, I was like, pretty sure he's not gonna die. Like, I'm pretty sure Golasso's not gonna kill him. Because Colasso would have killed him and would have made that, like, he's not a thinker on these things. Where it's like, no, I don't want to do business with this guy anymore. I'm going to kill him.
Mm-hmm. My most nervous Zach moment was after, you know, he had been dealing with all this stuff and he's talking to his new kind of protege client. And he walks into his office and shuts the blinds and takes out a bottle of vodka and takes out some pills.
Actually, I did feel that too.
I was like, this might be it, because this wasn't the first time we've seen Zach try to kill himself.
Not at all.
That's right.
So I thought, and I would have been sad to watch Ray Romano go, but it would have been a pretty compelling way for Zach to go, to watch him kill himself in that office.
That was a really, like, somber scene, and they held on him
for a long time.
A bit.
I think in a rewrite where he kills himself, it would have been after the Corso. It would have been after the Corso meeting where he realizes that it's like, nope, Richie is a mismanaged, terrible human being, and you're stuck with him.
Yeah.
Then I think that would have been the no way out of. But I did have that feeling of like, no, I think he might just kill himself here.
Right.
Or I think he toys with the idea that he can kill himself, or that he might.
It definitely crosses his mind.
Yeah.
I sort of wondered if after. Well, maybe we should wait to get. I'll keep it on you, Lauren, and I'll bring it up later. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, like, obviously more nervousness when they're going to that meeting, like in, you know, under some overpass or wherever the heck they were, and. You know, we've got the nice kind of parallel with the dog poop on the curb situation. You know, those cute little tie-ins there. But it's funny because I almost didn't think at that point. I was nervous then also, and then when they got to the meeting, I'm like, oh well, that's right. We know someone's going to get shot here, or a gun goes off. Something is happening, but. Once they got there, I didn't really think that Zach was going to get. Like, I felt safe about our characters.
I felt safe about Zach in that scene because Richie is a bit of a social engineer of this situation. Not complete. Like, I think a lot of it was just by happenstance that he's like, I know if they meet in my office that he might say something and that might like set everything in motion.
Yes.
But I think also his job is to get Colasso in his office as much as possible. And then and in that room he just found a way to orchestrate just perfectly that it's like, no, I think if I accuse the room and everyone in the room, Corso's gonna open his mouth, because Corso just opens his mouth.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna show that Corso's not the person you do business with.
Exactly. And we eliminated him from the picture, which was really nice. He was so annoying.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, you know, the episode's called Alibi, and we've had these kind of double meanings all throughout the season. So obviously we've got the Alibi for the record label, and then Alibi situation. Not that Corso is his alibi because he was the only other person there, and that is eliminated from the equation. So Richie can kind of now turn it. I mean, he can't completely turn it on him because the feds kind of have the pieces put together. But you know, if the other guy who was there is dead, it's a lot easier to twist things around.
And what it was is Corso was always an explosive situation because Corso could always, if he doesn't like Richie, flip and start telling people stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
Whereas now he can't.
Yep.
So now, and it seems like the detectives that were on Richie about the murder seemed happy with getting that chop shop.
Oh yeah.
That I don't think anyone's
They're
really...
kind of over the murder now.
They never...
They're like, whatever, we're out for Colasso now.
Well, to be fair, they were never actually after the murder.
No.
They were after Colasso and organized crime, but they got in a level that the FBI was involved. So now they're on other stuff.
Yeah.
That Richie's pretty much dealing with the one guy it looks like he can deal with. Mm-hmm. And then that's going to be his thing, that he can give little things in drips in a way that it'll look like other people did it. And he just has to, like, and maybe he'll deal with that burden that, like, other people are going to die because he conceals being a rat. But I'm okay with that if he does that, like, once every 3 episodes, and otherwise it's just him managing the nasty bits, and Dan's like the nasty bits.
Right.
Definitely. Exactly. All right, so should we I don't know, Jeff, what you were wanting to say. Should we move on to something else?
It has to do with the last scene, so I don't know. We're talking character, so I was just thinking it would have been a really interesting move. I kind of wondered throughout this whole episode if Zach was going to kill himself, just because that seed had been planted once, and I thought, what if, obviously the finale ends with a stare-off between Yankovic and Finestra. I thought, what if that's the moment when Yankovic leaves and that's when he does it? What if that's the last image we're left with? Obviously, it wasn't.
Right.
But I kind of thought when you were talking about times that might have actually happened, I thought maybe this is the very last thing we'll see, is Yankovic, like, poised on the side of a building or something. I don't know.
Although Yankovic's character is best when he has to accept a terrible bed that he has to lie in.
Yeah.
Similar to Skip.
Right.
Skip is way more accepting. Like, Skip is way more accepting, and he stays out of Richie's way.
Right.
Whereas
he's just like, F it. Now we have to deal with this. Whereas
like Zach keeps
it very
struggling and trying. Whereas like Skip accepts that, like, nope, I work for Richie. Richie's crazy. He's drug-addled. He's tortured. He wants to just pick up this random band off the street and make them stars.
Right.
I chose to be with Richie, therefore my path is to support Richie. Whereas Zach is constantly trying to buck the system.
Buck the system.
I did that.
Roger.
Okay, all right, just end it. Kill it.
It's done. It's over.
Okay. All right, so our other kind of things going on. So we've got Clark, just like a tiny bit of Clark, which I loved little Clark in this moment. And it was so silly, that scene with like the choreography, I guess, with Clark and Jorge. So early in the episode, we see like the club, like people, it's popping, like people are dancing, loving the music, and I believe it's still Indigo,
still
who they
the Indigo.
introduced. And so stuff's looking good for little Clark. And back at the office later, so Skip, Scott, I believe is his name.
Scott is his name, yes.
And Julie are talking about, they're like, what the heck? Indigo is charting? Like, what is this? And we dropped them? Like, holy crap, like, we screwed ourselves there, shot ourselves in the foot, like, all this stuff, and they, and I like how Clark, like, pokes his head through the little window of the mailroom. He's like, well, actually, like, look at the, like, drops the letter down to them, and it's the letter that would have been like, hey, we're dropping you guys from our label. Oh, mysteriously didn't get sent. Clark's like, yeah, I didn't send that, blah, 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 because me and Jorge have been pushing the album, like, we did this sort of thing. And then they're like, who's Jorge? He, like, pushes open the little window. It's so adorable. But this was awesome because we finally, I mean, it was such, like, a simple reward, I feel like, finally getting Clark to get that moment, and, like, he's feeling back on top of things, and he pulled this off, and the big guys know it now and recognize that, and I think we'll see Clark kind of take on more responsibility and move out of the mailroom, I'm sure, next season. But I think Jorge's got some future with us too,
and hopefully not just as, like, they always leave it there that him and Clark can have contention, just because essentially they were a team, that they were both necessary to pull this off.
Right.
I think my prediction last week was dead wrong, that they were going to let Indigo be dropped, and then they were just going to take them on themselves.
Oh, right.
Were they ever too busy working within the system?
I was with you too, though, Steve. That was my prediction.
Those idiots. Now they're stuck on this alibi train.
Yeah.
The $100,000 Corso loan.
Right. If we're looking at competing interests, though, I think what we need to think about is if a Zach Richie competing.
Oh yeah.
I think that's going to be where we see old friendships dissolve, and I think
it's happened, and I think
it's already happened. Yeah,
that's pretty much going to be the focal point of the next season.
I think so too.
I would assume.
Yeah, which I'm excited about, because I love Ray Romano, and I love him in that role. So I think it we'll get there, but I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about Zach and a little bit more in his situation, kind of with Gary, or Xavier, if you will. And this episode was sad to me, this whole transition, because Zach, last week we saw him really kind of get that spark back, because he's been kind of like shit on all season by Richie, and like, just obviously with the whole deal falling through, that set all this crap in motion for him. And literally shit on. I remember realizing, like, getting multiple dog poop situations for him this week. But he, you know, finally got that kind of that fire and that passion back for it with signing Gary/Xavier, and has been super excited about that and about the possibilities of doing more A&R stuff. And then this week, you know, he's still excited about that and be like, well, maybe I'll run A&R when he's talking to Scott about things. Yeah. And he's indulging Xavier's like eccentricities and all that.
This was back when he thought American Century was going to run like a regular business, like a legitimate, non-mafia funded business. Right. That he thought he can oust Richie. He can oust Richie, and Colosso will just have his hands up about it. So he thought, like, oh yeah, this will be great. Like, I have control over all these artists. I'll run A&R. It'll be perfect. That's not how it went down.
No, and he was just so disheartened and, like, you know, short with Xavier when they get back. Like, what? No, I'm not paying for you to have an apartment. Get a job, you, like, you know, you little dreamer. And yeah, so it's just sad because I was really hoping, like, you know, Zach's gonna, like, just, like, find his groove and, like, feel awesome about stuff. But I think one of the things also we need to know about, like, the people who are writing and creating and running this show, like, the characters are going to be pretty tragic.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
We're not having, like, big heroic, like, wins for our main characters, really. Yeah, no, like, you know, it's like the Clark moments and things like that are going to keep us happy, and little things along the way. But ultimately, I feel like we need to be prepared for darkness.
Well, and I think there's going to be a lot of darkness with this Zach character, because it looks like they're just going to, like, there's pretty much going to be a carrot and a stick in front of him, and he's never going to get it.
Little like nibbles here and there.
Like,
he's a little three-way every once in a while, you know.
Yeah, like a little three-way, but then you'll lose $90,000 and think you lost $90,000.
We do have a great comment in the chat roll. The most recent comment.
I love it.
Yeah, I see it too.
Is that Adam N? Yes. Adam N says, everybody abuses Raymond.
Love it.
That's true. Love it. Yeah, and thanks all y'all in there who are chatting. Philip Arama, Adam N, Good Girl Gamer, Alexander, all you guys, thanks for watching and talking with us. People. All right. So yeah, sadness for Zach and the stare down at the end.
But exciting potential to see even more character acting from Ray Romano. Like, if we do push him into really dark places next season, it's been really fun, I think, to see Raymond Romano do this kind of work, because it's just pretty new for us. Yeah, it's just, I've been on his train all season, and I will continue to be in the next season as well. So
I'm really hoping I have a run-in with him again at hiking.
Yes, a run-in at Runyon.
Oh, it wasn't Runyon.
Oh, it wasn't.
Get out of here. Leave.
Know. Bye, everyone.
Bad pun. All right, no, because I'll, like, you know, this time I won't be like, wait, was that Ray Romano? I'll be like, hey, great job, come on the show. And then he'll probably say no, but it'll still, I'll make the effort.
He strikes me as the kind of guy who'd say yes if you actually got a hold of him. He strikes me as the kind of guy who's really hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
Like a lot of stars like that.
I'm just gonna have to hike more.
Yeah.
Just hope I run into him again.
Just gonna have to stalk Ray Romano.
Okay.
Done.
I mean, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna stalk Ray Romano. What are you talking about? Okay, so great stuff with Zach. I agree, Jeff. I think we're gonna see some really cool stuff with his character next season for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the nasty bits. I think that's kind of our biggest thing that we haven't talked about so far. So obviously we're coming off of, speaking of three-ways, a three-way with Jamie and the two boys, and they're practicing, arguing over a song, and Jamie kind of steps in, tells them to, like, hey, take 5 dudes, and this doesn't really go over well. She's like, and it would be such a tricky situation. I mean, obviously, I think most of us agreed with Andy last week of being like, are you freaking serious, girl? Like, what are you doing? This is not the way to do it. And we're just seeing how messy that can be.
To be fair, it wasn't messy until she slept with more than one band member.
This is true.
And, like, and to be fair, the first band member, Kip. Kip caught feels, and he was just unable to tell her that he caught the feels.
Yeah.
That's all it was. Like, that's a basic thing that happens to a lot of people.
He's like, oh, I have a crush on this girl. Let's have a three-way with my bandmate. Wait, what?
Well, it's bad idea. Well, because it's like, I don't no,
I'm not that into her.
I'm a rock star. I'm not even that into her. I can like totally share her with my bandmate, and that won't be weird or awkward at all. And it totally was, and it was just this huge contentious thing that's probably gonna be a part of them forever.
I kind of wish we could have seen more of the emotional grounding between Kip and Jamie, because, I mean, obviously Kip has very deep feelings for her, and I'm kind of like, why? I mean, like, it could just be that he has a big heart and, like, you know, he had sex with her, but I just think from a character perspective, I'm like, we didn't really see a ton of their relationship besides sharing a place, and I don't feel like we really got to know Kip that well this season.
No, I agree with that, and we have. I mean, obviously they've been close and spending a lot of time together since day one, pretty much.
And she made them. I mean, like she did kind of save their band.
Yeah,
so.
Right. And we had that moment with them, you know, when she gets kicked out and they have that moment, she breaks down, and like it was very, you know, a tender moment between them. But I agree, like we didn't see much more of that connection aside from that kind of kitchen scene that we had.
Yeah, you're right.
So we could have, I think, done with a little bit more of that, you know, to justify, because I don't know if you really need to justify it.
It kind of felt like a 180 to me. I was like, oh, like Kip has a very, very deep emotional connection with Jamie.
No, that felt strong the whole way.
You thought so?
Yeah, the two of them felt like they had a strong emotional connection, and I think he was trying to like live up to the persona that
be a rock star.
Yeah,
right.
Like, whereas like most rock stars I know have a persona and don't actually live up to it in real life.
Right.
Like while they're on tour,
stage presence.
yeah, like while they're on tour, they have to keep up that persona and definitely keep up that stage presence. But like they still need to keep a grounded, regular life,
right,
to be able to contend with what being in the spotlight is.
Yeah.
And I think we'll get to see him deal with that.
Yeah, which would be exciting because I think he's great, that actor, and like I'd like to get to know Kip better. I just don't necessarily feel like he's kind of been acting out what a rock star is, which has been maybe preventing us from really getting inside.
Well, not to mention his drug use has been from pretty much frame one with him,
right?
So that we don't. There's something there that leads him to want to do heroin, and maybe it's the idea that he's drawn to being a rock star because he doesn't like who he is internally, and then like that he'll have to deal with that at some point,
right?
And not the way Richie's pitching it, which is like you can have all the girls,
right?
Whereas like that'll just like accentuate your emptiness,
yeah,
which sounds fun for like 3 weeks,
right?
And then
and then you want something real.
Then you'll have to do like the work in therapy and detoxing and stuff,
right? And so obviously we have the big like breaking point with him ODing and all that stuff. And Richie saves the day there with, he came in and pulled like a very like Pulp Fiction moment. I feel like I was like, wait, is this like a to the heart thing we're gonna see? But he shot him up with cocaine.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I don't know how you say
because
people
he wasn't
from ODing,
he wasn't
come on, Lauren.
He wasn't ODing on heroin. It's just that heroin is one of those in your head lay around drugs.
Oh, right. He was just
it was
gone.
An upper with it. Heroin's essentially
He was
kind of a down.
I thought he was like so bad that he was, or he was just
like,
somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was just he was so far gone on heroin that he was like lay on the couch and just do this, gone on heroin.
Oh, okay.
I kind of got the impression there were like medical stakes, and like
there were. I just don't think like if it were an OD, a shot of coke wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
That it wasn't quite. This show reveals that I know a lot about drugs.
Should we be concerned?
No, but
he's like, normally if you shoot cocaine into your veins.
A lot of hats.
Speaking of medical situations, I would love to quickly tell you guys about a very, very exciting new show coming out on CW right now. It looks awesome. It's called Containment, and it premieres tomorrow on the CW. It's taking iZombie's slot. And here's what you got to know about Containment. Containment is about the greatest enemy, the enemy that comes from within. From the co-creator of Vampire Diaries, Julie Plec, and Emmy Award-winning director of Game of Thrones, comes the riveting outbreak thriller, Containment. When a mysterious and deadly epidemic breaks out in Atlanta, a massive urban quarantine is quickly enforced. Walking Dead fans, Atlanta, is there a connection? I don't know. Loved ones will be torn apart, and those on both sides of the fence will be put to the ultimate test of survival. Not just fighting disease, but fear, isolation, and the unknown. Oh my God. But is this virus an act of Mother Nature, terrorism, or something far more sinister? The truth will not be contained. Secrets begin to unravel, society begins to crumble, but unlikely heroes will rise. Ordinary people will defy the most extraordinary odds. So don't miss the utterly terrifying yet highly anticipated new series Containment. This must-see limited series event premieres Tuesday, April 19th. Catch it only on CW tomorrow. I'll be tuning in.
I will too. CW is doing a lot of cool stuff.
They really are. Like, the network is... Yeah, like...
It's the network of Arrow and Flash and Legends of Tomorrow. Like
I love Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I also like that show.
It kind of has become like a critical darling in the last 5 years.
A little bit. I like CW.
I do too, and I think this show is going to continue that tradition of very high-quality, well-produced, well-written shows. So tune in, guys.
Pew, pew.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds very exciting and intense. I was looking up things about speedballing, which I guess is what it's called when you do a downer and an upper.
That's the term. I don't know the term.
Oh, okay. There's too much here for me to be able to really share intelligently about it, but...
I would have thought that speedballing is like some kind of like fun arena game you play with your office mates, like whirly ball, or
that's the other thing we were thinking of.
Whirly ball, like a ski ball?
Ski balling, speed balling. That's what I would have. That shows how experienced I am with substance abuse, everyone. That being not at all.
Got it.
All right. Well, so anyway, he basically does that, so that brings Kip back to life. Yeah, reminded me a lot about of Pulp Fiction.
That also reminded me a lot of, if anyone's seen Pink Floyd's The Wall, the entire song Comfortably Numb, the character of Pink is essentially it's the exact same thing, where a record man just like gives him a shot and just kind of he transforms into just this monster on stage.
Yeah, and so I mean it obviously worked to get him back on his feet, and then literally has to go out onto stage like right then. And so the entire crowd, I mean, this is for the Dolls show, and the entire crowd's like, no, we don't want these nobodies, like, give us what we came for. And they're booing, all this stuff. They start playing their song, which we played there in the beginning. Has anyone been a part of a crowd that didn't like an opening act?
Not that intensely. I feel like every concert, though, no one's really excited about the opening act.
Pretty much. Yeah. I'm from Philadelphia, and we're not known for being the best of crowds. And I was at the Electric Factory, shout out the Electric Factory, and I think it was Korn. Korn was the headliner, and then the opening act was this weird rap rock group that everybody by the second song hated so much that they turned their backs completely.
Whoa.
To the and one of them somebody threw their shoes at the band, which I only assumed they had a bag with more shoes, because that would be
hilarious.
Because you have to mosh in a Korn concert after this band, and now you don't have your shoes.
That's unfortunate.
But it's like really bad, where people will go like. I've never before seen a Philadelphia crowd go beyond like, we're going to boo you because we dislike you, to like, we're literally
unifying and turning around.
We completely. Are literally, you are not worth our energy, and turn around, and they played to silence.
So I mean, I don't have an experience like that, but I have kind of a similar one. So Coachella just happened, and I went to Coachella a few years ago when Outkast performed.
Nice.
And I think it was Andre 3000, not Big. I think it was Andre. I totally forget. But they came out, and I love Outkast. I think they're one of the best, like, hip hop
one of the
groups. Yeah, solid. And they like did not want to be there. You could tell they didn't want to be there. Their main stage, like main night situation, like, so everyone's there to see them. Didn't want to be there. Like, Andre was saying some stuff that like. Oh, I totally forget now. Dang it. And he was making some comments about like, oh, what, like, you guys are gonna like maybe clap a little bit louder or something like that. Like, just like trash talking the crowd. And at one point he turned his back on the audience and started singing. It was so awful. And then I heard like the next weekend they like picked it up and it was so much better. But the first weekend it was like, they clearly don't want to be here. He's being a dick to the audience. The audience wasn't booing him, and he turned around.
You know what I bet happened? I bet Andre really liked someone and decided to have a three-way with Big Boy, and then there was tension.
These are just thoughts and ideas.
I don't know where I got that idea.
There's no truth to that. You know.
Hey, yeah.
Anyway, so
Hey, yeah.
that's how I. Yeah. Hey, yeah. Shake it. Anyway, that's my experience. But I've never had like been to an opening act that was like so bad that people had like an actual aggressive or
Like,
very passive aggressive
I've got a quick
reaction
one,
to.
if you guys.
Go for it.
So I don't know if you two knew this, but I used to be a cruise ship vocalist. I used to sing and perform on a
yeah.
cruise
We know
ship.
this now.
Yeah.
do.
In a quartet, and we were like well liked on the ship, but we were more of like a lounge act. But occasionally we did put a show together that we put on the main stage, but we weren't like the featured guest entertainer act. And they had us open for this like tour of American Idol winners, which was really cool for all the crowd. But the cruise director, like our boss, the entertainment director, decided to like have us open and sing a 5-song set, but like not dim the lights. So like during the 10-minute part where people are filing into the theater, like mic us, and like it was just the dumbest, worst call ever to make, because like some people felt obliged to listen, but then they couldn't hear because the people next to them were talking because the lights were on, and like
Because it was still socially acceptable
Right.
to like sit and talk to the person next to you.
Right.
But a quartet isn't necessarily the kind of act like a pianist by himself.
Exactly. It's not
Would
like we
be
were
like-
ambient.
Yeah.
Like we were like had lights on us, but the house lights were on. It was just terrible. So I've experienced the situation where you're like an undesired opening act, and it's not fun. I can tell you that.
Oh, and I mean, because the opener is like, that's like usually a big deal to be an opening act for someone big. So
Right.
just,
You
like,
get to
be nice to them.
You get to be exposed. But you have to fit. Sometimes
yeah,
you
they
don't
have
fit.
to. Whoever's setting up that show and that tour needs to know, like, okay, these are complimentary enough to where our audience is gonna like you, sort of
Yeah.
thing. But anywho,
I mean, I think the nasty bits are very complimentary to the New York Dolls.
yeah.
Then I think that. I also don't think there's anything that objectionable in that song.
It's so funny.
know, I
Yeah,
was
they got
thinking the same
arrested on
thing.
obscenity charges. But honestly, they were like, what, 10 seconds into the song? Or
Well,
if that?
Richie called the police.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
duh.
absolutely
yeah.
guaranteed that Richie called the police.
You think so, for real?
Oh, that's
I
what
think, yeah.
He literally said, "I have to go make a phone call."
Well, and then
yeah.
like,
Damn
and
it.
then it's okay because it was kind of still underplayed, but I think it was like, yeah, he did it.
There was
Richie
a
was like
subtle
on
play.
fire this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
on fire. I mean, he's been such a crapshoot the most of the season, but this week he was like basically did everything
Apparently,
right.
Richie needs to go on a bender half the season.
Yeah,
And then the other half the season, he has it together.
mental clarity. No, yeah, he was because that was such a smart move. I mean, Kip's like out of his mind for one, just like
Right.
dead off heroin basically, and now is like speedballing apparently.
And I enjoyed, there was a little subtlety to this whole sequence. That the cops come in and arrest them for obscenity, which happened a lot in the 70s. To not just music acts, there are a lot of famous comedians who were arrested for obscenity at that time. Some of whom egged it on, which isn't necessarily Lenny Bruce would egg that on a lot, and it was always like his career's kind of gone down as someone who had some artistic integrity and like place, and then at some point he just kind of lost it and was just like, nope, I'm Lenny Bruce, I'm gonna come out and say the F word and they're gonna arrest me.
Yeah.
But there was a subtlety here when Lester saw them punch Kip, and then he looked over and like the band that he manages is in a bad way and having a bad time, and then he looks out to the crowd and the crowd's having a bad time because they're watching people getting arrested for obscenity, and then he looks to the actual record label and they're all cheering and laughing and having a great time, that like, this is perfect, it's amazing press, it's everything. And I think he had that feeling of like, you're just like, you're puppet masters, you're manipulators of artists, and that's why I didn't want to deal with you. And I think he had that reaffirming of like, when he saw Murray Gold 2 weeks ago, where he was like, I don't want to deal with you ever again.
Right, and when Kip does get hit in the face, like there's real concern on Lester's face. It's like, oh, like these are my boys, like,
Yeah, you punch him in his face and he falls wrong. He breaks his neck. He never walks.
Yeah,
Right.
Like that's.
And it happened. And here's what's crazy and dark. It happened to Lester, and Lester can't sing again. So like, of course, he's concerned. He's like, look, you're gonna do the same thing to Kip, what happened to me, and destroy his career. And here's what I loved about this. One of the problems I love the show, but one of the problems I've kind of had with Richie is like, what do I grab onto? This is an example of Richie pulling a dark, kind of potentially assholey move.
Yeah.
That's massively successful and brilliant. And he kind of, so it's like even when we get to explore Richie's kind of dark, maybe not admirable sides, if it's showing a level of genius and brilliance, it excites me as a viewer. I'm like, oh, like I get it. Like it's kind of Don Drapery. You're like Drapery. That's kind of
well, you can relate to Don Draper or Tony Soprano or
Right.
Richie Finestra and not like them.
exactly.
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's the anti-hero that's acceptable on television now.
For sure. And it was nice to see him just follow his intuition and nail it. I really like that. And because, you know, he made a deal with Lester to use that song and then totally perverted the song, but his intuition was right. So that was really interesting to me and really excited me for next season.
Yeah, definitely. I know somebody, who was it in here? Oh, Adam says, did Lester's original version of the song say the F word 5 times per chorus? Probably not.
Probably not.
But
Probably would now.
yeah, right. And that actually, let's talk about the situation with Lester. And he, you know, I think he's a little still definitely out for the integrity of the artist and the music, which I think, I do think Richie is too, but so much more business minded, obviously. You know, he wants to prevent his label from going completely under.
He's an at all costs kind of a person. That if Kip gets punched in the face, or I have to I have to speedball him, or like any of that sounded really bad. But if I have to inject coke in him while he's already on heroin, but he's like the ends will always justify the means with him.
Right.
Yes.
So that's always something that we can come back to, of just like I don't like that. Like Kip became a pawn in your plan to elevate the band, and even if Kip's okay with it now, he shouldn't be. Like, he shouldn't be okay with just, what if the police just beat the hell out of me?
Right.
What if I get beat what if I get beat the hell in jail?
Yeah. What you can almost make the argument, though, that like radical rabble rousing is a component of punk rock music.
Yeah.
Like it almost is the music a little bit.
Yeah,
for
definitely,
sure.
and that's what Richie was going for. But
Right.
it's manufactured rabble rousing.
Yeah.
Which I think is something Kip would hate.
Yeah, you're right.
Kip would hate above all else.
Does Kip know that Richie called the cops?
I don't think anybody's
I don't
officially
think-
gonna know.
Yeah.
It would be interesting
think
if
so.
that
I
came
think
out.
everyone at the label, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, because there
Yeah.
was even who would have called the cops, and then just they made that look to Richie.
Right.
Where it's like I think everybody kind of knows.
Yeah. Interesting.
And those who don't know, I think, were just happy it happened,
Right.
because it's like, oh, this is the best thing that could happen to them.
Right.
If only it were real.
But way to have kind of your debut show, pack a good punch. Sorry, I had to, you guys.
That was great.
You did it first. I had to. It hurt saying it. Anyway, so with Lester, so when Richie visits Lester before, to get approval to do the song, and he has that talk with Maury, they need, because they never recorded it and they don't have ownership of the master, they have to get permission from Lester to use it.
Right.
And I'm happy that Lester doubled what Richie was offering, and then some. And I don't know that he's necessarily, I think he's business savvy, but I think he's also at this point, he knows that he can kind of, whatever Richie's going to bring to him, he can and should try and squeeze out a little bit more.
Yeah.
So happy with that for sure. And I know there was some hesitation or, confusion over whether or not he was still in the picture earlier in the episode. But I think we'll see that relationship even tighten up more between Lester and the band in next season. But I like that. Though I think that rift, like you guys were saying, with the whole, the PR stunt side of it, I think Lester will kind of be skeptical about the whole situation and kind of the other label guys. But I was definitely happy to see him kind of get his own with his music. So what that was kind of our nasty bit situation, and similarly, with all of that, when Richie fires Jamie, I thought she was getting fired for good.
I know.
What'd you guys think?
No, I thought it was exactly what he said after, which is just
nice.
I said whatever I had to do at this moment.
Right.
You're fired from the band, not from the label.
Yeah, you would. Yeah. He'd be an idiot to fire the A&R rep that found that band.
Right, exactly. So I thought that was a good move. She obviously is pissed about that because she set it up. But I'm sorry, I also kind of agree with Richie.
And maybe if Kip were a little more attuned to his feels, he could just be in a relationship with Jamie, because Jamie would probably want that.
Yeah, I know, because if you're gonna be like, hey, let's have a three-way, you gotta like be okay with it happening. You can't get all like jealous after.
Yeah.
Or you just don't say, let's not do it.
Yeah, like you don't even have to have that many deep of feels for somebody to like have a three-way with somebody else that you know to feel a little weird about it.
Yeah.
Like that's a very common response, or probably a very common response to such situation.
Right? Yeah.
Right?
It's okay when it's in a three-way. It's not gay when it's in a three-way. Do you guys know that song?
I know that song.
I feel like I should know it.
Lonely Island.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
JT, Lady Gaga.
Okay.
It's great.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we've left off. I mean, and we have Richie kind of with the whole office, like this kind of closes things up for us. You know, he's making his grand announcement about Alibi Records. It's kind of the launch party of the label, and saying, you know, setting it up as like this is the label for like, you know, kids who like the like punk and alternative and like the misfits almost, and like the people who don't feel like they necessarily have a place. Like this is the music for them, and this is what we're gonna do. Kind of like a mishmash of stuff, and then gives everybody a can of spray paint to trash the office. So, which is, I mean, earlier in the episode, was it the pilot when the building kind of crashes down? So we start with that kind of chaos and like you know, the destruction and end with a similar
because that's what he feels like he needs. What he wants. That's the place he wants all his art to come from.
Yeah. Chaos.
I also think, actually, I'm bordering on predictions. I'll wait.
Adam in the chat says that he thought Julie was going to just write F this and storm out. I did too.
Yeah. I thought that too, actually.
I was like, oh, this isn't going over well. Richie's like grand scheme of like, let's all be rebellious together. I thought Julie was going to do that and then just peace. Be like, Richie, you're a dumbass. Like,
and of all people, Julie, though.
Yeah.
I thought Julie.
I know.
I thought Julie would stay.
I kind of also, like, this scene was interesting to me because, like, it was fun and, like, felt like a symbolic reinvention of the label. Like, even the spray paint stuff, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then it was like, they're, like, destroying documents and, like, throwing chairs through windows.
You're like, stop, it's getting so dirty.
I was just kind of like, there has to be an element of business practicality here that we're not considering.
Or, like, somebody at their desk, but, like, that's, like, a picture of my mom. Can you, like, leave that alone?
Exactly. You know, and then I'm thinking afterwards, like, oh, this is a cool idea. Like, this is a cool idea, and, like, everyone's going to get, you know, there's been a lot of stress and a lot of frustration on every levels there at the company. So this is therapeutic, and they need this. But then I was like, you guys, this isn't actually going to look very good when it's done. Like, can we get actual, like, maybe a graffiti artist in there to do this, like, and clean it up once you're done? Because it's just going to look like shit.
Do you not have clients in the morning? Is that you must not have clients in the morning.
Right, exactly.
I kind of felt like it was that moment when it was like, oh, the viewer's going to love this, and it's going to be so, and I felt like a little manipulated, maybe.
Like it was a little cheesy.
Or like
a little cheesy, kind of like the Entourage moments when it's like, they got the girl and they had a three-way, and it's just like feels a little bit like but it was cool. I mean, I will say there were moments during that sequence when I was like, oh, this is kind of bad.
I thought it would be really funny if that was when Hannibal shows up to be like, I think I'm gonna try this agency again.
Like, there's someone spray paints him in the face.
Out.
Yeah.
Hannibal out.
I kind of felt like there was like an ulterior motive with Richie and like the bugging going on or something else. Like there'd be another layer
or
to
something
it.
That if he's gonna share the office space with Gold,
like a big FU,
then he's
kind
gonna
of.
like we're gonna wreck the whole office space in an attempt to maybe get Gold out.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking because it's Richie, there had to be something more, but then that meant that more euphoric at the end, like hearkening to the pilot. I was like, no, maybe this is just his happy place.
There, yeah. All right, so I think that does it for the finale. Very exciting, awesome show. Let's like real quick jam through a few predictions.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
We didn't get any Devin in this episode, which I'm a little annoyed by.
I am too.
I think I'm holding. It may not be a prediction, but it's a hope, and I want to see them get back together in some way. Like I want
the opposite.
No.
I want to see them independent of each other. Also, some news: Terence Winter is no longer the showrunner of this show. He left due to creative differences, which I think is hearkening to what we're all talking about.
Yeah.
So I think them like literally burning the office to the ground is a bit of an effigy to we're going to get a lot less mob stuff because that's what Terence Winter wants to do. And we're going to get a lot less mob stuff moving forward, a lot more music stuff. So this time next year, we'll be talking about how it was too much music and we want more mob stuff.
Yeah.
Bring on Terence Winter.
Yeah.
Well, and also Olivia Wilde is pregnant with their second baby, which I found that out today. I think they announced it today. So who knows?
Jason Sudeikis, right?
Yeah.
Nice. I love
so who knows if that factors into things at all? But yeah, I think we're gonna see a rift with Richie and Zach.
Yeah.
I hope it's not a permanent
season 2
thing,
arc.
but that's gonna be a big thing for sure.
I want to see Andrea date.
Yeah.
I'd like to see her eat a man up.
Oh, hey.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I want to see more of her for sure.
Honestly, she's a character I'd be most excited to see explored a little more deeply. Yeah.
And what else? I mean, I think we're gonna see a lot more from Clark and Jamie, and I think that Jorge's gonna kind of come into the picture a little bit.
I wish we would have gotten even more Cece. I felt like we threw Cece in there just as a salt and pepper thing, but never got any real in this episode. So I'd like she's pregnant with Hannibal's kid still, right?
I think she had the A word.
Maybe.
It rhymes with Smishmortion.
Yeah.
And it was
that
that
one?
Richie paid her off for it, but that's not a prediction.
And
that
I think we're
happened.
gonna probably see a lot more with hip hop coming into the mix too, because that's kind of going at the same. Yeah, hip hop and dance. So
I did love that Indigo song, "Kill the Lights."
pretty hot.
Yeah.
Pretty hot. Alrighty, I think we're out of time.
Yes.
All y'all in the chat, thank you guys so much for tuning in, watching with us, talking. You guys are talking up a storm in there. We love it. And once again, I'm Lauren Salaun. You can find me everywhere on social media at Lauren Salaun, especially Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram. And I also do a few other after shows here. Which ones do I do? On Thursdays, Law & Order Special Victims Unit, and also on Thursdays, The Catch. So find me there. Follow along on Twitter and Snapchat to know exactly what else is happening. All right, see ya. Okay, go.
You guys can find me on Twitter almost exclusively at Steve Kaufmann. That is Kaufmann. I have a busy night tonight. Starting just now, I'm going to be live tweeting Raw until about 6 p.m., at which point I'll be watching Gotham. And then at 7 p.m., I'll be doing Gotham. And then I'll probably pass out.
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in today and all season. It's been really fun. And Layla, we miss you today.
Yes.
But thanks for sticking with us during the panel. Yeah. You guys can find me on Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham and Instagram at Jeffrey Crane Graham. A little bit of quick, shameless self-promotion. I'm releasing a comedy rap album in 2 weeks. And I'd love...
What?
And videos.
Yes.
Heyo.
Yeah, they're music videos as well. So
Awesome.
Yeah, stay tuned.
All right, thanks, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.